Hari Om, everybody. So, before we start chapter 13, I remember a few classes back, I think you only just probably sent them, wanted to get some clarification on some chanting aspects, right? Especially when we are splitting certain compound words. So, I just thought probably we'll cover it not just one session, maybe or a few sessions, under the overall thought process of not just that particular specific thing, but in terms of what are some key careabouts in terms of pronunciation, um, with respect to anything that's there in Devanagari script, Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Sahasranam, Vedic chanting is a bit more broader, but we will not cover much into that, but mainly these two things. Okay, so with that in mind, probably get into some basics here. So to first of all, I want to make sure that I'm not I've read Sanskrit in my school days, but whatever little I know is what I'm sharing here. So it's a big, very vast topic, right? Somebody like Panini, the grammar is so vast. But here, what we will try to cover is largely from a pronunciation aspect rather than constructs and many other aspects that are there. Okay, so I'll share and then maybe we'll go through some of those things. And you'll probably keep it maximum to 10 minutes, probably over a couple of sessions. Okay. Okay. First, foremost, so let me just see. You're able to see what I'm sharing? Yes, Sudha, you able to see it? Okay. All right. So yeah, all of this is handwritten. I prefer writing than typing it, and not that good at typing stuff, right? So so I thought it's best to, and I love writing Sanskrit. So anyway, so which comes under the gamut of Sandhi. Sandhi means basically you can just say a set of rules to construct a compound word based upon a construct of words which has both syllables and vowels. Hmm? And so as we go through, we'll touch upon many things. So basic things we will start with first. All of us know this, right? There is in the Devanagari script, there is a half, pronunciation for, let's say, uh, for a syllable, right? For example, mum, right? So whenever there is a mum, which is, that's how it is pronounced, plus that is becomes mama. Right? So this comes everywhere, and this probably there, probably the most common, probably the most obvious also for all of us to understand. And so if you take, for example, chapter 12 itself, right? I'm taking examples from the chapter itself so that it's easily relevant. So if you see here, Tesham plus Avyaktaha. Tesham Avyaktaha, right? So the ma gets merged with this, and this, so it's an plus is a. So similarly, if you take a plus a, which is there's an a matra here at the end of daya, plus the a matra at the beginning of the following word, then it still continues to be a. So daya plus anandaha is dayanandaha. So it's not anything different. Same thing. Cha, this a matra plus a matra. So this was a plus plus a. This is a plus a. This is a plus a. A plus a. So that becomes a plus a becomes a. So chapi. Okay. So simple, right? So now we'll go to the next category. If I can find it. Yeah, this other one also I want to say, which is under the same category, which is that there is a r plus r. This also is a r, and this is also a r. That becomes r. So plus matra plus rinam becomes matrunam. This may not be very commonly used, but this comes up in a few places. Matrunam. Okay, so this is another thing. Okay, now we'll go into the second one. Second one is, again, let's not get caught on the name of the sandhi. This is just more for my reference. I kept it that way. It's called, so here, there it was, a plus a, etc. Here we're adding some of the other vowels. For example, a plus e becomes a, plus u becomes o, and then a plus r becomes r. So this is now normally something we don't observe, but I just added that. So Parama plus Ishvara, very normal words, right? That we are aware of. A plus E becomes Parameshvara, obvious. Maha plus Utsavaha. Maha plus Utsavaha because Mahotsavaha. Simple, right? So there are many others. I did not wanting to go through an elaborate list here. And then we get into similarly other construct also where we now add what if you add R plus O and a few other combinations. So they have just categorized it in different buckets. That's the way to look at it. All of these comes under the gamut of vowel plus vowel kind of thing. A plus A or R plus I becomes I. So there is nothing beyond this, right? So then you have A plus O, similar to this, which is still O, right? Simple. Similarly, A plus R becomes R. So the third one is the one we probably don't observe it so much, but so Danta plus Aushadam, right? Danta plus Aushadam, which is the second one, is Dantaushadam. And then Upa plus Richati, which is this category. It becomes Uparchati. So you see that Uparchati comes into the question. So R gets replaced, this half cha still is there, but then there is a R matra that gets on top of this Uparchati. So A plus R plus, it becomes R. So it's an A matra, which is an Upa, then R matra, which is the Uparchati. Okay. So this is and then there is, I thought I'd take an example. The first chapter itself, there is one. Pandavascha, right? Pandavascha plus eva. Pandavaschaiva. So what is it here? A plus A, which becomes Pandavaschaiva. So I gets added here. Okay. So that is on this one. So these three are fairly, interrelated, also simple. So I'll now jump a little bit. This gets into slightly more technical aspects. So where there is a consonant coming to the picture. So there is a rule here. So this particular sandhi, there is a rule that let's say that first letter of any varga. Now what is a varga, right? All the consonants come under this varga, right? Ka, ga, ga, na, cha, cha. So each one of them is a varga. So the first letter of each varga is ka, cha, ta, like that. If that is followed by a vowel, okay, or a soft consonant, whichever it might be, let's say take the vowel for example. So vak plus, so let's take this example, right? Vak is the first case, which is the first letter of this varga. And then there is the E, which is the vowel. So here this kar, it gets replaced by the third letter in that same varga, which is vagishaha. So vak plus ishaha, it's not vakishaha, it is vagishaha. Not very obvious, but these are the rules. Okay. So this gets replaced by the third letter of the same varga. Okay. Now similarly,
if you take this is also Vriddhi Sandhi, no?
No. These are all different sandhis. It's called, I'll tell you. I'll probably is Jashtva sandhis, what it is. It comes under consonant sandhis. Many of these come under consonant sandhis. Okay. So then you have, so you take this other example where there is a consonant followed by a consonant, right? Which is what you're saying. So soft consonant we're saying here. So there, what do? Dik plus gajaha gets added, the half ga gets added, which is the third letter in this varga. So this becomes dik gajaha. Okay. So this still retains as it is, just the dik gajaha gets added. And then let's see here. Then there is dik plus ambaraha, which is same thing, right? Consonant followed by a vowel. Digam, the ka becomes ga, becomes digambaraha. These words we are normally aware of, right? These things, vakishaha, digambaraha. very common use. And now the thing in the chapter itself, we take the 12th stanza of 12th chapter itself. There is two constructs. Abhyasat plus jnanat. So here there's a bit of a twist, it's not that obvious. You see here, abhyasa is still the same, jnanat is still the same, but then there's a half ja that gets added. It's not the. So I think it has got to do with the fact that the one that follows it also comes under the ja matra. So that's the reason ja is used. So it is not, sometimes that's the reason. In all of these rules, there are always some exceptions. Some common sense is used in all of this, right? Abhyasat jnanat is the way it is. It's not abhyasad. So you have to be careful whenever these constructs happen, which rule to use. And then the same verse, there is another construct called jnanat plus dhyanam. So here also the same thing, right? Half the tha, which is the consonant, first matra, followed by dhyanam. So what do you do here? The gets replaced by the, which is the third letter.
Yeah.
And if you see the and the comes under the same varga, right? So jnana dhyanam. So the way to actually chant this, when we chant it should not be jnana dhyanam. It is jnanat dhyanam. If you look at the 12th stanza, 12th verse, you will see this construct, right? And when we pronounce it, that's the key thing. So the reason to learn all of this is how to do proper pronunciation, right? We should not say, if you read it the way it is, you'll read it as chanted as jnana dhyanam.
Correct.
Not the case. It's jnanat dhyanam. If you
If
see
you
that
split
stanza,
it, then we should split it like this, right, sir?
This is the way to split it. Yeah, now you can say it together if you want as jnana dhyanam. That's not a problem. That's the way it works in all of Devanagari, right? If you're able to say it together, jnana dhyanam, not a problem. But if you put a pause and say jnana dhyanam, then it's not correct. It should be said jnana dhyanam. That's all there is to it. And then there's another example I thought I'll take, which is from the third chapter. It is janayet plus ajnanam. So if you see here, the th gets replaced by the. Janayed jnanam. This also you will see in the 26th verse of the third chapter. Like this, there is a lot of examples even in Vishnu Sahasranam. Maybe I'll probably, see if I can add some Vishnu Sahasranam once, because we are very popularly use it, right? And many a times some of it is not pronounced properly. So good to sometimes know some of this. Okay, now I'll jump into another sandhi, which was a bit earlier I kept. It's called Visarga. Visarga means what? Visarga means the two dots, right? Which is there in pretty much all of Devanagari. And this, it's a very broad topic. Okay, so I'm going to probably close on this one today and then continue with this in the next one. So Visarga has got a lot of rules are there in terms of Visarga. When it's followed by Visarga of a particular one, it's followed by different syllables, different vowels. How should you pronounce it? So here I'm taking this example of just the, right? Ramaha plus tatra. It is, you add a half is to it. Ramas tatra. Okay. All right. And similarly, the one that, you had sent earlier, it is parayopetaha plus te. Is parayopetaste. So in the book, it would be written as parayopetaste. But when you chant it, we split it up as parayopetaha te me yukta tamamataha. If you remember, that's the way we chanted it.
Yeah.
So this is the midway for that particular, in the chanting of for that particular chanda. Parayopetaha te me yukta tamamataha was the way we chanted. So this is the way it is. So the split is this, right? And so the followed by the, may more than what is followed this particular syllable. It's a visarga followed by a particular syllable. In this case, you add half to it. Oh, yeah, same thing. If you look at 12th chapter, 12th stanza, there is another example. Tyagaha. Tyagaha plus tyagachantiranantaram. It's the actual word, but I just put the word tyagacha. So it is again visarga followed by hasta. So what is it again? You're just getting added is a half s. Tyagas yanti jantaram. Understood? So,
Yeah.
so if you see the 12th stanza, you'll see this particular construct. Tyagas yanti jantaram. So that's how it is. Okay, so I'm going to stop it here. Any questions? Again, a very vast topic, and I think it's all meant for us to understand. And also, when we chant this right with awareness, we chant why it is being done like that.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to come out of this.
Mm.
All right, now we will switch to chapter 13. ॐ श्रीकृष्णपरमात्मने नमः। ॐ त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोगः। अर्जुन उवाच प्रकृतिं पुरुषं चैव क्षेत्रं क्षेत्रज्ञमेव च।
So 13th, no, sir?
Yeah, 13.
No, this is idam shariram kaunteya. That's the one.
Yeah, no. So yeah, this may not be in some of your books. It probably starts with that. But in all Bhagavad in Chinmaya Mission books, if you have it, it'll start with the Arjuna Vacha part, and then we'll get into it. But anyway, I'll chant this one. Arjuna Vacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetragyameva Cha Etad Etvad-vitumicchami jnanam jneyam cha Keshava. So now we'll start with probably what you have in your book. Shri Bhagavan Vacha idam shariram kaunteya kshetramitya bidhiyate.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha idam shariram kaunteya kshetramidhyabhidhiyate.
Etadyo veti tam prahuhu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha.
एतद्यो वेत्ति तं प्राहुः क्षेत्रज्ञ इति तद्विदः।
क्षेत्रज्ञं चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत।
क्षेत्रज्ञं चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत।
क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं मम।
क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं मम।
तत्क्षेत्रं यच्च यादृच्च यद्विकारि यतश्च यत्।
तत्क्षेत्रं यच्च यादृक् तद्विकारि यतश्च यत्।
स च यो यत्प्रभावश्च तत्समासेन मे शृणु।
स च यो यत्प्रभावश्च तत्समासेन मे शृणु।
ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतम् छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक्।
ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक्।
ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः।
ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः।
महाभूतान्यहङ्कारो बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च।
महाभूतान्यहङ्कारो बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च।
इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च पञ्चचेन्द्रिय चेन्द्रिय चेन्द्रियगोचराः
इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च पञ्चचेन्द्रियगोचराः
इच्छा द्वेषः सुखं दुःखं सङ्गातश्चेतना धृतिः
इच्छा द्वेषः सुखं दुःखं सङ्घातश्चेतना धृतिः
एतत्क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम्
एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम्
Yeah. So 13th chapter, last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's got its own theme that we will get into in a little bit. So some of the books, right, and I was reading in even in this one, it said that the first stanza, which is there in some of the scripts, right, which is Arjuna Vacha, was sort of added as, as sort of like a prelude, and it seemed very logical to add it because, if you see the first stanza, probably that's there in your book, it starts with this body is, of what Kshetra and Kshetragya is. And so I think a lot of probably the later scripts, they added this thing, which is to sort of say that, why is Arjuna, Krishna getting into these topics suddenly, right? So this first question, the first stanza is more of a question from Arjuna, right? He's got a lot of things he's heard, terminologies he's heard. So he's asking the question, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva. So you mentioned the word Prakriti and Purusha in one of the earlier chapters. And also, I've heard the topic of Kshetra and Kshetragya. What are these, right? And what is this knowledge and wisdom? All of this I wish to know in a bit more detail, right? So obviously you've heard some of this, and it's not that Prakriti and Purusha was not discussed earlier, and also knowledge and wisdom was not discussed earlier, but he wants to know a bit more and how to connect all of this. So Bhagavan starts talking in the second stanza, which is my second, your first stanza, about what it is. He starts with saying the body is called the field. So, and then whoever knows the field is called the knower. So I think probably some things we need to just probably understand before we get into the specifics. There's a lot of terminologies, and then he's going to peel the onion and all this, what these terminologies mean in some of the later stanzas. I just thought maybe we just understand ourselves, right? When he says the body is Kshetra and the knower of the field is Kshetragya. So if we just take the word Kshetragya, let's just leave the word Kshetragya. Let's go to the higher Prakriti that we talked about earlier, right? That means the all-encompassing spirit that governs the entire universe, if that is what it is, and that's also Kshetragya. The question is, can it exist by itself? Right? Can it exist by itself? If it exists by itself, right, how does it, unless if you see, by itself, for example, can electricity, right, by itself portray what it is to the outside world? No, isn't it? So unless there is a way for it to show its power, show its energy through some mechanisms, only then, the existence is there. So when we see the whole existence, right, it encompasses two things. One is an energy, and then a mechanism for that energy to show itself, to all of the existence, which is where the Kshetra comes in. Kshetra is what is the field. Just like the bulbs, the fans, etc., becomes a Kshetra for the Kshetragya of electricity. Right. So So, it's so just like this, right? If you take, for example, therefore, um, the ornaments that we go see in a jewelry shop, the gold ornaments. So if I take the gold ornaments and I were to remove the gold out of it, there is no ornament, isn't it? So the gold is there, but for us, you and I, to be able to appreciate the gold, ornaments were made. It is for us to be able to recognize the glory of the Lord. There is a universe. If you see in some of the earlier books on this one, it said that another way to look at this is the the silent power that is there, which is it's like the Shiva Shakti. But then the thing that portrays it into forms and power and energy and so forth is the Shakti part of it. That's the reason they say Shiva and Shakti always have to be together. So the Shakti here is the rest of the existence that we perceive, right? Which cannot exist by itself unless there is a Shiva behind it. So there is nothing called, they have to coexist. That's the way to understand it. Shiva, and that's the reason Shiva and Shakti always go together. No, can't be separated. Similarly, Kshetra and Kshetragya have to be always together. The reason I'm mentioning is when sometimes when we go into the spiritual path, and the world is where the problems are. We have to come out of this world and go inside. But just says that, world can be ignored. Not at all, right? You need the world for us to move forward in life. We need the world for, fulfilling our desires, experience the karma that we have to experience. Without it, we cannot progress, right? The body has come into an existence, right, in order to tap into the inner aspect of it. But for that, we have to work in the body principle, the limitations of the body and all the outside world. Only then we can go deeper inside. So it's a very subtle aspect we have to understand this, right? And so far, because what we have done is we have touched upon the first six chapters. When Arjuna started, he was all about, in first chapter, all about my uncle, my grandfather, etc., etc. And slowly, with Sankhya Yoga principles, Krishna eliminated him on the fact that there is much more than what you are, and there is an essence that is the actual truth. And so that was covered there. And then on the 7th to 12th chapter, what was done, it was about the fact that, above all of this, there is a larger existence that permeates this entire universe, and all of 10th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, Vishwarupa Darshana, everything, all of that portrayed the mammoth aspect of that universal spirit. Here, he is, the 13th to 18th chapter merges the two of them. They are not two different things. The Kshetragya that is outside and the Kshetragya in each and every one of the living entities, you and I, are one and the same. And that is probably conceptually known, but it's something, can we comprehend that insight? That's something that is so vast in nature, and something that looks like a teeny little existence that's in me, that's making everything happen in me, are one and the same. That is what Krishna is going to peel in this whole chapter. How to come to that understanding, not only this chapter, the rest of the 6 chapters. If you see that Mahavakya that Swami Chinmayananda refers to in the context of these 3 categories of chapters, first, Tat Tvam Asi, right? Tvam was all about what was there in the first 6 chapters. Tvam means you. Who is that you? And you, your desires, your limitations, etc., everything was peeled. Tat was what was peeled in the next next 6 chapters, 7 to 12, right? Which is all about that. What is that? That power, that, that all-encompassing thing, all pervading, and it was, showcased in that 11th chapter with the Vishwarupa Darshan, etc. And now Asi is, you are the same as that. That means that and Tvam are one and the same. That is what is getting, is going to be uncovered. And it's so fairly, I would say this chapter is very logical, but at the same time, very, what you call, intense in the context of the way it's going to unravel things. And so, very, very beautiful. And the word Kshetra and Kshetragya gets discussed umpteen times. So the first thing we have to understand is that Kshetra and Kshetragya have to exist together, right? And for us as individuals, we have to realize that, my body, if that my body is what is Krishna referring to as a Kshetra, I've got a Kshetra again. Then and then the Kshetra, that field is also going to get broadened. But for now, he's just starting with yourself, right? Because before he brings the world and everything, he first wants to say in you itself, there is a Kshetra and Kshetragya. That means we have to exist, isn't it? And until we die, that these two are together. The day the body leaves, there is no Kshetragya. What appears as a dead body, right? There is Kshetragya has left it, the soul has left the body. Similar to this, right? When the gold minus the gold, there is no ornament. Minus the water, there is no swimming pool. Swimming pool is there, but it's got no purpose. Minus, the bulb and fan, there is no electricity. So I think this has to get just ingrained that, I have to live in this world to get things done. I have to live in this world to, to accomplish even things in the spiritual path. This has to get something, ingrained. Yes, we say we go inside, etc. That's all there. But in the transactional aspect, in our own growth, in our own spiritual growth, the world is very much needed. And almost all gurus say the same thing. You don't discount that, ridicule that. It is needed. It's just that how to deal with it. If you go back again to, the last chapter, right? Those values, 35, 36 values that was discussed, right? One of them was don't hate anybody by any means, right? What that was in the context of Kshetra, how to deal with people. And then it was also saying don't get agitated by someone else or don't agitate somebody. Also, it was in the context of Kshetra. But what was it doing, both of them? Something inside us with respect to the Kshetragya. So the values are all practical values to be done at the level of Kshetra, but at the same time, it was meant to uplift that Kshetragya spirit in all of us. That's the way one has to look at each of those values. What is the root behind it? What is the essence behind it? Why should I do it? And what is the mechanism to do it? Until the Kshetra is there, I couldn't have done any of them, right? If I don't have somebody who's constantly pestering me, agitating me, making me miserable in whatever ways, how am I going to grow? If everybody's pally with me all the time, is that the most, best environment to be in? Right? So that's the reason they say that in the world, you need opposites, right? You need the other side of the coin in this world to grow. Without having the other coin, life is incomplete. So while we may just say, this is bad, that is bad, you need that stuff which is so-called bad. That's the reason in the context of the spirit or something, there's nothing called bad. What we talk of as bad is something that is required as part of our experience. It is there for a reason. God doesn't create something for us just for the sake of fun, let's create problem for this guy. He's there creating just that is because that is the ways and means for me to experience, relate to it, and grow. And that's the reason this chapter has to be looked at it from that angle. How do I, with this understanding, apply these things in my life, and why are these things there, right? So it might have been said earlier, we should not have attachment, we should not have this. This is not, that's not there. You have to feel it a bit more and understand what is the intent behind all of this and why this whole conglomerate of Kshetra and Kshetrajna are being discussed in these last 6 chapters. Okay, so here he goes on to say that the body is the Kshetra, and the one who knows that there is this body. That means what? The awareness principle, the witness principle, or the enabling principle, however you look at it, is Kshetrajna. Now, one thing you'll notice in these stanzas is that always in most chapters, Krishna always says one thing, that, whatever is being said here is not something I'm inventing. He says that etagyo vetime te prapuhu kshetrajna iti tad vidaha. These things were told by the sages. It is not something new. They are as part of the Vedas. It is not that all of this is being reinvented. All of this is part of Sankhya philosophy. And the Sankhya philosophy existed a long, long, long time before the Gita was written. And so when you look at it from that angle, all of this is just putting it into a form that is easy to understand versus reading, let's say, Brahma Sutras that our Adi Shankaracharya had written, given commentaries on, and many other scripts. Probably very, abstract, not easy to understand. Gita is put in a form, little bit of abstract is still there, but in a much more easily understandable form. So, and what is this body all about? And that feeling of Daniel is also going to happen in these verses. But right now, at a high level, right? He's just saying that whatever I'm saying here has been said by the Kshetras. And for now, just relate to it this way, that there is a body principle. And for the body to live every second, there is a principle called the Kshetrajna. Kshetra and Kshetrajna. For now, know it this way. And then he's going to continue into the next stanza. Kshetrajna chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. So here he says this Kshetrajna is not only your field, I said your body, but in all bodies. And what is the ultimate knowledge that one wants to have in one's life as part of the spiritual? For that matter, to grow into one realized being, is this knowledge about Kshetra and Kshetrajna, nothing else. And the fact that what are the elements that brings them together. And, so it is not therefore about knowing only Kshetrajna. Let's be very clear. Unless one knows all the multi-dimensional aspects of the Kshetra, then only one will appreciate life, only when they will appreciate what has to be done by me in the context of interacting with this Kshetra to go towards the Kshetrajna. You understand, right? So this aspect of it is come very clearly. So therefore, what does this tell us? It's not about, just running away from some place and going to the Himalayas. You're on your own. You have a comfort thing. You dip in the hot water and, meditate for the rest of the day, etc., etc. Good for somebody who's already come to that level. But for you and I, right, we have to be we have to confront, we have to deal with the day-to-day existence in this world that we are in, and realize that part of the world is there for a reason. Let's not dismiss it. That means if there is a friend that is not, the so-called friend that you think of, or, the enemy, is there for a reason. This is something that has to get ingrained in us, right? So sometimes we say, I can run away from this, I can run away from that. doesn't work. If you look one level deeper, right, why are we in this body? Ask yourself, why are we in this body? It is to get rid of those impressions, unwanted impressions that we have accumulated over the last lives, many lives, isn't it? There's absolutely no other purpose. And the day we get rid of them, we are out of the body. Rest of it is entertainment or, this, that, etc. So as long as those impressions lie, I have to go through experiences, good or bad, to, tick off those so-called karmas that I have accumulated, prarabdha karmas. And by saying no to something, running away from something, am I doing any justice to it? Someday or the later, I have to experience it. So that's the reason said that, when something comes, to you that, you have to go through, don't just ridicule it. Don't say, why did this happen, etc. Just welcome it. You've come to me for a reason, right? Let me make the best use of it. And if I've done some good work earlier, it'll put a cushion onto whatever the experience, bad experience it might be. It'll put a cushion and I'll be able to deal with it better. So I live a good dharmic life and these experiences will come. It may be harsh, but but I'll get the necessary cushion to deal with even those hard circumstances that come in my life. But they are required for me to go through this phase of life and grow. And the more I tick off those and it comes out of, slowly reducing, and the day the karma list comes down to zero, this prarabdha karma, sanchita karma, a guru and practices will take care of it. But prarabdha karma, you and I have to go through it. So therefore, when we see why am I here in this particular purpose, you can see it in multiple ways. But one thing from the standpoint of, not going through umpteen different lives, is to say somewhere, can I reduce these prarabdha karmas and don't accumulate any agami karmas, so that, even if I have to come to another birth, it's not multiple other births, it's just a bare minimum. Or maybe I don't even come into another birth. So it's a deep science. When you look at this entire thing, and all of this would not have been, understood had we not gone through these 12 chapters. It's not something that, you tell in the second chapter and you understand it. It will not register. Because unless you have a reasoning behind, action, what are the actions, what is the renunciation of action, what are the traits you have to have, etc., right? Meditation, and many other aspects that were covered in the earlier chapters, 13th chapter would not have been there. Would not exist. It's there in the sequence for a reason. Because you might say at the end of it, I have heard Purusha, I've heard Prakriti earlier, so what's the big thing? But we are now trying to put it all together because that's what life is all about. That's why when you talk to Guruji, he'll just say, can I enjoy life and can I, also be in meditation? Absolutely, nothing wrong with it. In fact, spirituality doesn't say, you don't have to be in this world. In fact, you need this world. Probably spending a lot of time on this particular thing, but just to get the message across that these two things coexist. Now he says that, so the knowledge, therefore, that he's referring to in this stanza, right? Kshetram chapimam vidhi, that particular thing, that ultimate knowledge, therefore, is where you know both the knower aspect of it, the knower of the field and the field, and the way these two work together. That is the knowledge. Because you need science and you need spirituality. You can't say this science is all, not required. You need both. You need to know the practical aspects of life, and you also need to know the, deeper aspects of your life. Right? You can't dismiss one and say, because they coexist. So ultimate knowledge, therefore, when we say, because earlier, if you go back to one of the earlier chapters, knowledge is knowing the self. Remember, knowledge is knowing the big I. Because at that stage, you need to know that. But now, having gone through that and also, relating to God's own manifestation, where he says, I'm the strength in you, I'm the power in you, I'm the one that brings taste to the water. All of that was what? To bring to realization that he is there in every, practical parameter that we deal with every day. Now, how these two go together? How do I enjoy, bitterness in water and also sweetness in water? Do I say one is bad, one is not, one is good? Those things are now it's going to come in, right? So if you see the linkage, if you see the beauty about how this whole Bhagavad Gita has been constructed, it's just mind-boggling. So, and I think I'm going to put a stop here. Probably because we'll go in a little bit more into detail in Kshetragya down the road. Any thoughts, Bhavani ji? I think your face is not seen, Bhavani ji. Your camera கொஞ்சம் கீழ இருந்தது. Now only we are able to see you. And Shalini joined a bit late, I know. So we'll hear. Jesudha, any thoughts?
Actually, அங்கே வந்து this concept they have touched upon, இல்லையா sir? I'm the intelligence in the intelligent. So in those cases also, it is that kshetra and kshetrajna concept is already touched upon. Here we are able to feel that, yes, though they are different, it is actually one.
Yeah, that's just it that I'm in here, right? See, again, that was all highlighting the good aspects of Bhagwan. It was here, it was there, etc., isn't it? What did the 12th chapter tell us towards the end? It also brought about some of the not so comforting aspects of life, isn't it? And somewhere it was said, I think 9th chapter, that, see the equanimity, with the equanimous mind, whether it is, somebody eating a dog, somebody who's a Brahmin, an elephant, all of that, right? So those things, so you have to look at each one in a different, that was just saying, that was the glory of Bhagavan. Glory of Bhagavan, everybody can appreciate, na, Jesudha? Glory of Bhagavan, I can say, but then when says that glory of Bhagavan is also the criminal aspects in a person. Will you digest it?
Right.
The same Kshetrajna is there in a criminal. Same Kshetrajna is in a noble person. Will you be able to relate to it easily then? No, right? You were able to appreciate because, any day, everything is hunky-dory, we are able to appreciate it very nicely.
Right.
When something, terrible happens, we are not able to comprehend, isn't it?
True.
As long as things are going well in the family, great. The moment something bad hits it, what happens to our mind? What happens to the relationship? What happens to our, thought process, our emotions? Because in them also the same Kshetra again is there.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
You understand, right? So it's a it's a subtle thing. It's not, in one hand it is there, but may not have been understood that way. Now we have to see it a little bit more in a holistic whole life angle. I think the
Right.
holistic aspects of this whole thing is what I feel, comes up in these coming chapters.
And I think the Sandhi part all that is coming here, sir, actually. In the first one, that tad vidaha, it is actually tat plus whatever. Now we said, no, sir, the third
See,
one.
that's the thing, right? When you have this understanding, right, all it does is it appreciate, the way the whole things were written, right? So you look at many times, you just appreciate, and then you feel, wow, it's so beautiful. And then when you split it, right, you'll understand the word meanings much more,
Yeah.
right? So when the words are taken, then this particular word means this, right? Because I've heard it before. But when you put it together, sometimes that word meaning may not come very obvious. So when you do the Sandhi split, easy to relate to the word-to-word meanings if you know some of those words.
Yeah, sir. So here itself 2 words is there, sir. Tadvidaha and Yatadjnanam. We told us, sir, Chachaja, third letter.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Application. Wow, Jayasudha.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you,
Today's
if you go into Vishnu Sahasranam, that is where I remember last year, 2 years back when I was going to it, which is mind-boggling. The way the constructs are there, and there's so many visargas, many in Vishnu Sahasranam, halfway through certain, the namas, right? And so, how do you chant these things? It was always a perplexing thing to me until I understood this thing. So the beauty. I mean, you listen to it when you chant it that way with this. So there's some pronunciation rules that we'll talk about even next class and the following class. It just will open up a different thought process the way you chant things. It just is. It has got its own beauty. That's the way to put it. It does take effort to do it that way, but it's got its own relevance, beauty.
The electricity and bulb is the best example to understand this, the Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Best example. Concept becomes very clear.
Yeah.
And Ramesh was taking the session, even though I was the weakest in maths and all this. Somehow all these come through mathematical or scientific. I don't know how, because I have the black sheep in the family as well as maths and logical reasoning through spatial recognition was concerned. Spatial skills, multiple intelligence, that the pattern reading, spatial, the other intelligence are fine. But when I came to all this, with Guruji's grace, all these come through mathematical. So when I'm wondering why Guruji, Ramesh was taking the session, I thought of let us start from the macro to the micro application of what he said as it applied to me in my life. I think ever since Guruji came into my life 30 years back, slowly and slowly, those sparks, the kshetras of everyone around me, and this all the relationships, everything, as coming as concentric circles. You understand what is concentric circles, right? All of you. You as most. So the point is only one, that more and more application of it in my daily life is not that I'm perfect from what I had been, it's slowly settling. You get another, especially the closest ones are the most difficult, settling in more. And another thing which came to me was at a tangent. I mean, and this started at a point where these circles, now coming to the micro part of it, one is a self and the matter body that I am, the identity, the name, and all the paraphernalia got along with it. And the other is the seeker that I am, and all those things. Where they are meeting at the tangent, at that point is a Guru Mandala, where the Guru is sitting. And whenever they meet at a tangent at that point, something blossoms. I mean, that is a secret. That is, can you say, at a tangent? They meet at a tangent. Am I right, Saisuda?
Yeah.
Ramesh?
Yeah. We meet at the time.
So that is where, and that has happened only because of the grace. You may do any meditation, anything, pardon with due respect. Rama, 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 Mara, 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 Valmiki said no, he didn't know about it. But the how was that what brought him into? He didn't know Sandhi, nothing he knew. He only knew that he was that inner feeling of that paschatapa or that jigyasa to know more about beyond this world, to get out of that feeling of guilt or this. That was the divinity in him, Valmiki. Yeah, there is a story like that, no, Ramesh?
Yeah. Lot
And
of
so, Mara karke, he got
Rama.
I don't know, is it true really? What does it mean really? What does it imply? You tell me, Ramesh. Every
What?
time you have to give 1.5 minutes of clarification on this, your own
Oh,
version. Yeah.
Today I'm blank, I'll tell you quite frankly. Today, because this topic, when I started going into it, it just blew me apart, even though I've done it before. So today I might not speak much, but yeah, um, maybe next time. Give me some time, we'll talk to it.
Okay.
Shalini, I don't know how
Okay.
much you heard, how much,
I
because it's
joined
probably,
only towards the end, sir. But okay, you were saying about knowing yourself and the field is actually the field. Kshetra and Kshetrajna is a true knowledge. And then we discussed about knowing the big I. And then when I was going through this, we have gone through this chapter earlier also, but again, when you go through this again, right, you, I'm just seeing, okay, now Kshetra, Kshetrajna. First is, for us to live in this world, we need to know ourselves, right? Second is that once you know yourself, knowing the big I, we need to connect together so that we can remove all our past impressions in some way or the other. That's how I am trying to connect. Okay. But even the last time when you explained this, I think concepts, I just took it. It's not like I went deep into it, but this time I hope I can go deep into it. And I want to also uh, connect to, because this Kshetra, Kshetrajna and all comes in Vishnu Sahasranamam also many times. And
yep.
I don't know the meaning there, right? So, but I think knowing this, it will help me to, get what Sahasranamam is all about. I'm
Yeah, a
hoping.
lot of the words in Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Sahasranamam, they're all one and very, very interconnected. Even some of them are there in Lalita Sahasranamam. So all of these, ultimately they're all, portraying the glory, the same essence, right? So,
But it
hey, one
requires a
thing,
lot of this thing to. While we say we have come here to remove the past impressions, example, and we